Hello. I think we're live.
Let's wait. I think it's connecting. Good to go. There you go, James.
Hi, I'm James from Vegas City, and this panel is to discuss about the metaverse real estate, interoperability between blockchains, and some other relevant issues to the panel. I am the founder of Vegas City and a couple of other districts in Decentraland, so I've kind of been immersed in the metaverse space since about September 2017, when Decentraland first sort of started. I do have a bias in my knowledge towards Decentraland, but I'm open to all of the sort of a metaverse and open metaverse space in general. So I come at this discussion from the perspective of a sort of hands-on person running a team, building out a Decentraland. So I'd pass across to Lorne, who's the CEO of a Metaverse group.
Thank you, James. So appreciate that. I come from a different background, originally financial services background. I was an investment banker for 15 years, and then was a CEO in the health space. And now I've entered the Metaverse space with some great founders, including Michael Gord from GDA Capital and Andrew Kegel from Tokens.com, who I think both spoke earlier today. And our focus is to be invested in owning land through a variety of different metaverses. Currently, we're focused on Metaverse 1.0. So Decentraland, Sandbox, Somnium, and Crypto Voxels is where we have land in space. And our goal is to build out those spaces in the different lands as the community grows and create community and work with great partners, as we did or are currently doing in the fashion district in Decentraland. And we're excited about the opportunities as Metaverse 2.0s come to the table and working with some of those incredible metaverses as well. And with that, I'll turn it to Adonis.
Thank you very much, Lorne. So my name is Adonis. I'm a co-founder of Renovi, the first niche NFT marketplace for architects and 3D designers. Our vision is to help build an open and interoperable metaverse, and we want to employ and empower the architects to actually do it. My background is in economics and finance, but I was always had a passion for blockchain technology, and for that reason, my master's thesis was on the efficiency of blockchain markets. I'm currently really fascinated about the metaverse and everything that has to do with building on the metaverse and living within the metaverse. So that's why Renovi, it's mine and the other co-founders' baby, which we're bringing into the NFT metaverse space. And Milton, CEO of Bridging Networks, over to you.
Thank you, Adonis. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. And just a little bit about me. I started in cryptocurrency in January 2017. I started off homeless on the street in Atlanta, Georgia. I got into investing into cryptocurrencies, and ever since then, I am now CEO of Bridging Networks. I'm a strategic advisor, networker, connector, and event organizer. I basically have been traveling around the world to all the major cities to instill myself in every blockchain community possible so that I can learn directly from the people creating the space. And all I do is basically just outsource solutions using my network. And I'm so excited about the metaverse. I've been involved in NFTs for quite some time now. I've helped get gaming and earn a plate projects in some of the leading events like San Diego Comic-Con, and also working with the World Economic Forum and many different governments around the world to bring, the metaverse, NFTs, and digital assets to the mainstream.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Milton. And since we do not have somebody directing us, it's going to be a general discussion about the metaverse and what we like about the metaverse. So maybe we should start by saying what actually drew us into the metaverse and why we're working on the metaverse, because I think a lot of people outside the metaverse are having a couple of question marks as to why these people are interested within the metaverse. So it would be really nice to see what are your thoughts? What brought you here to the metaverse, and what is interesting to you personally?
So I was just going to quickly start on that because I can't really remember life before the metaverse because I've been around in Decentraland. So for me, it was really the promise of it in 2017 when Mana came out, and it was the first kind of blockchain metaverse. And I'd been in financial services as a tech guy, and before that in compliance and a bunch of other industries, and it just stood out as a much sort of more fun and interesting way to sort of interact and with the internet, and also more, I think the thing that captured my imagination was the fact that it can help to visualize a blockchain and kind of throw people right in there to kind of get sort of hands on, and I would say that my quest in Decentraland has also been a quest of understanding of Ethereum and smart contracts and blockchain and NFTs. And the metaverse is like a tapestry of where all of that is sort of woven together. So that's me.
That's brilliant. Over to you, Lord. Or Milton, absolutely.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, look, I came at it much later and much more recent than James. I think what I've seen occur in the NFT space and the creator space, and giving chances people to participate in these micro economies and being able to have your own voice and your own call it decentralized world where that doesn't exist today, is really exciting. And frankly, working with a white page, there's nothing on the page. We're all get a chance to create from ground zero. That's incredible. And I was back as a tech banker in the 90s when the internet really kind of came to reality per se. But obviously it existed long before that. But it was amazing to watch that creation element. And I think this kind of goes back to Web 1.0, where you get that chance to really create that clean slate and get it right this time. So I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Brilliant. Milton?
Oh, I'm just very excited about the metaverse because of the fact that it allows so many people to get involved and actually to change their lives, by participating. In the old economy, a lot of people who are creators, who are, builders, they don't really get to, own much of, what they create. They don't get to, be able to benefit financially and hold their IP or anything like that. And this actually allows for people, the builders, to keep value, and to me this is something amazing because a lot of people see what's the problem in the old economy, the old world just to say, and we're creating something brand new. This is the bottom. This is something that we are ground level, and it's everyone is allowed to participate. And this to me is extremely exciting because I feel like this is how the economy should be working. The people who actually create value should be the ones to keep the value that they create. So yeah, that's something that's very interesting and very exciting for me, especially the interoperability between all these different projects, because I love the fact that we are competing with the mainstream and the traditional or legacy ecosystem. And I feel like this is true capitalism because we get to compete, and let the best product win.
So you touched on two really nice topics over there, which is owning your whatever you have on the metaverse, and then interoperability. And actually, I think we need to expand on both because this is really interesting. If we take back the metaverse, and we have the metaverse now and what do you know about the metaverse now, but we need to think that this is not the first iteration of the metaverse. We had IMVU, we had Second Life, and for a lot of people, those are considered stillborns because they were, what MySpace is now to Facebook. They were the first iterations, but actually they didn't take the metaverse forward. Now you have the cryptocurrency. Now you have NFTs. So you have the ability to own part of the metaverse, and it's not owned by another company. Not to mention that everything could be actually decentralized. And I find that really, really interesting is that we're building the metaverse, and there's an interesting distinction between the open and the closed metaverse. And I'm talking about what Facebook is creating and what Decentraland is creating, and Somnium and Crypto Voxels and so many others. So yeah, what are your thoughts about owning part of the metaverse? And I think that that is really close to what you people know more and better than me about land and owning land in the metaverse. So James, over to you.
Yeah, so I think I've got the perspective of that I am responsible for a large estate in Decentraland. It's a significant amount of land. It's enough that it needs to represent many people's access to it. So it is no good for a small number of players to basically be able to buy it up, because otherwise it will end up like central London or something, where a very small number of people own all of it, and everyone has to pay astronomical rent in order to do anything. So I think that one of the things which I think is a misconception is that there's these astronomical land value prices, and he with the biggest wallet is going to basically control the land, because it's not going to be the case, because the variety, it's no good if the metaverse is suburbia. So one of the things that I think is a balance with estate owners of large estates who want to be successful is that they've got to balance the notion of permanence, the people who really invest heavily into a long-term project. So, a venue which is built today and then is evolved over the next few years and gets better and better, just like a real world building that's been attended to, but also to recognize that large amounts of the world is only required at moments in time. So if you're putting on a monthly event, you do not need to own a big space in the metaverse. You need to have access to a space in the metaverse for once a month during your event. So I think there's this purposing of business opportunities, which is to basically, effectively people like me should be, and also the Metaverse group, for example, are almost like a conduit for other people to access the land. So, in Decentraland, there might be initiatives like the festival or Fashion Week or whatever. And really the exercise isn't in developing a piece of real estate in the metaverse. It's putting on an event at a moment in time. And the actual land piece itself is just a small proportion of the overall effort. And so I think this is just a perspective on land ownership and land in general, that it's not all about ownership. It's also about ease of access, and actually a level of responsibility and accountability for the gatekeepers who have the land. Because if it all becomes owned by a small number of organizations, then people will just move on and to the next open metaverse. And I think that the fact that Decentraland is open source completely is a really great insurance policy for the people who are investing in it, because it means that effectively people are not going down a blind alley. They're not getting walled in by someone else, because if it doesn't go the right way, if the DAO takes it in the wrong direction, or the foundation goes in a direction that people don't like, then there's nothing stopping anybody else from just forking the whole thing and coming up with a different version under different parameters. I see it as we're building like Manhattan today, and it's important we get that concentration of wealth and energy into one space to really make something amazing. But equally, I do see it as a blueprint that will then be rolled out and much more accessible for the rest of the world. And at present, the prices may seem it's being like people being priced out, but I think we just have to look at the difference between, say, Manhattan and suburbia. So that's a bit of a snapshot of my perspective on it.
Brilliant.
Definitely some interesting concepts, James, and interesting thought processes, and agree with you. I think a couple things we're trying to provide from the Metaverse group is we're trying to provide a turnkey integrated solution to allow people to use the plots of land that we've purchased, and not just in Decentraland, frankly, across the other metaverses that we've participated in as well. And so, we have that skill set to make it easy for anyone who has an idea, wants to be a creator, and wants to take advantage take advantage is the wrong word, but wants to be able to be part of the micro economy or micro community that's being created in these different metaverses. And I think that brings to the next concept of this is, I think community is key. We want people to come in. We need interoperability between these, different metaverses, and we need to engage them with, whether that's some type of music festival, whether that's some type of fashion show, whether that's something in Vegas City, whether that's gaming in Vegas City, whatever that may be. We want to make it a fun place where you're going to want to interact with your friends. And one of the amazing things that when people do talk about the astronomical lion prices, let's just go back to Fortnite, which I know is a closed concept and isn't what we're talking about today. But if you look at the success of the Travis Scott and Marshmello concerts, there's a chance where we can bring people with different cultures from around the world to participate in some amazing, whether that's a fashion event, whatever that event may be. I think of one of my best friends is a good friend of mine who's a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And I remember he grew up with me in Toronto, where I grew up. And we went to a bunch of Bruce Springsteen concerts over the years. Well, now he's off in other parts of the world, and I never see him anymore other than, chats and other things. And so wouldn't it be cool if we could go, and we were talking about this the other day, we go and see a Bruce Springsteen concert in Decentraland, right? And you bring all those different cultures and communities, and you can share with all your friends across the world. And that to me is what this is about. And that is the value of what I think we're all trying to create. And we're really just trying to create a great place for people to come to where they can feel safe, have fun, learn, engage. And it's not just, the fun concept. It's the other side of it is, as I think you are all aware, is we're building tokens.com tower in Decentraland. And the other side of it is, there are people that want to come and throw conferences and again, create that same community. There's a bunch of, as this conference is being held in Decentraland at the same time, we can really create a unique environment and do so many great things, bringing so many different types of people to the table. So that's, that I think is the value of what we're trying to create with our land and the space, and make that community and make it powerful.
100%. And like another different perspective would be like, the interoperability between value on all these different blockchains or these metaverses or anything. This is something that is very beautiful to see, because a lot of value has been siloed in one blockchain or in one, platform or something like that. And now there's a way for that value to be transferred, from one community to another. And another beautiful thing is how this technology and this opportunity allows for all these different assets that are digital to come into one universe, which, James had touched on this earlier, which is basically like, right now we have governance tokens or governance models. So in like, for instance, this can be decentralized, but it also can be centralized. This is a way to build bridges between decentralized, metaverses or universes, right, with those that are decentral, because not everything needs to be centralized or decentralized, And this is something that is key for the growth of this metaverse in the future and the maturity of this whole industry. So like for instance, how cryptocurrencies play a huge part in the metaverse. And cryptocurrency is not just to exchange value. It also, you can use these tokens for governance and governance models on these decentralized platforms. Sort of like how EOS is going through what it's going through today with the creators of EOS, like Block One. Right now in EOS, their governance model, the community is voting to cut out the actual creator of the blockchain because they didn't have the best interest of the community. So imagine the capabilities and opportunities that there are for the individual, to come in as a collective to actually make decisions in these metaverses and with all these digital assets. And like, this to me is something that is very important when it comes to interoperability, because we can exchange value and everything, but where are we exchanging it? From these private entities and these centralized, entities to these decentralized, where we can, basically use these in harmony.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have some great questions from Sally that I can see sending them from our audience. But before we go there, great points, and I would like to add. I absolutely agree with everyone and what you've said, and that's why we're also building Renovi. And I hate that it's a plug, but that's why we're doing it. We think that there's great land out there, and people want to interact with it, and people want to have these concerts, like you said, with Bruce Springsteen. Who knows? Why not? We can have a concert like that in Decentraland. But it would be really amazing if we could have it in maybe a historic concert hall that you visited before, right? So who is gonna create that concert hall? Who is gonna create that space where you can have a stand-up comedian talking to you? Who's gonna create the cinema where you can visit with friends, or maybe the place where you can have your virtual podcast? And we all know about avatars having virtual podcasts nowadays. So that's why we created Renovi. We think there's a untapped potential into the architects, into the designers that are yet to be utilized within the open metaverse. And we want to attract these people so they can create for us, and they can create for Decentraland and Somnium and everybody else. So we can have all these experiences within the open metaverse. And that leads me to the next question, actually, which is from for the panel. Do you see a specific value in mirror cities or physical smart cities being created in the metaverse? If so, do you see this approach of mirroring becoming all prevalent? Thank you. So I think that's from Piers, if I'm not mistaken.
So I'll just have a quick point on that, because I learned a new term in a meeting earlier today called a digital twin. I didn't really understand what a digital twin was, and I think that is what we're talking about here, in that it is, and I think one of the things we've got to be clear on is whether we're going to group that with metaverses, or whether we're going to consider that as something different, because a digital twin is really going to have a very different set of challenges in terms of expectations and so on. Whereas the metaverse, the technical constraint is that it's this big expansive area. People imagine a Second Life, type continuous, a contiguous virtual world where you can run around and explore and discover things. Mm-hmm. Whereas in terms of the digital, twin aspect, it's very, very personal. If you have a venue, it's going to be in the real world. It's going to be super important that your digital twin is indeed that. So, if, for example, it's a Valentine's and you've given it a pink makeover to make it, and put some red roses in, then you will want that on that day in that digital twin. Whereas in the metaverse, you probably are going to be thinking more about, a different interaction in relation to Valentine's Day. And I think that, if anything, for me, the two things are different, but there should almost be like portals between them, because if you have that real world venue, then maybe the metaverse is going to offer a lot more than that venue. But equally, if you discover a restaurant in the metaverse, then you might want to go and actually jump into the real thing and work out the actual table you'd like to go and sit in. So I think that, there's two complementary things there. And I do think there's a danger of trying to shoehorn everything into the fashion of the metaverse at the moment, because I do think that the metaverse, even at its basic incarnations in Sandbox and Decentraland and Somnium Space and others today, we all know that there's considerable challenges there. And I think that the challenges for the digital twin is high poly, faithful representation of real world architecture. Whereas we all know that you can't achieve that in the metaverse. You've got to start sacrificing features and things like that of the real world in order to get the performance and keep a frame rate and so on. So that's just that's my thought. But I do think that the interoperability between those two worlds is important, though.
Absolutely. Lorne, you had something to say?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, it really goes to your graphical design and what you're trying to create. So obviously your digital, when you create digital twins, your graphical design is at a different level, and has a very different feel. And maybe you're looking to get different things like out of that. So for example, James' example is, I'm sitting in my favorite restaurant in the metaverse, and I'm able to get an NFT and do something with that in the real world at my favorite restaurant, or I leave something for my friend who's going to the real world restaurant. So when he walks in, or he or she walks in, and they get an NFT or a delivery of something, it's like, oh wow, that's so cool. You were just here in the metaverse, and that type of neat stuff. And is it is a different feel and experience than the community experience that I believe you would get in a Decentraland. And so it's marrying all those experiences. And I think we're all going to look for different types of experiences. Could there be a metaverse that's just focused on different sports and different sports arenas and stuff like that? I think those, or digital twins like that, I think that's really interesting as well, and could be something there. But I think it's marrying, and I think interoperability and be able to on ramp and off ramp between those different metaverses and those different experiences is key, so that everyone has a chance to address them. Although one of the funny things I keep talking about is my son's a big Grand Theft Auto player. He's 12 years of age, and I wouldn't want him driving through Decentraland with it, whatever souped up car and guns he's got going with. So got to be careful with the interoperability side of that. But I think there's lots of great stuff to create here.
100%. And to touch on the twin, the digital twin subject, I feel that it's super early on. Like, yes, we can make digital twins. Yes, we can make but the thing is, like, it's about how the user experiences all these things. So like in the future, from my experience, I feel that we are moving towards the next stage and question: how do we tie in these digital assets and this metaverse to the physical world? And this is going to be something that is going to be a huge conversation when it comes to digital twins, because the IP rights, ownership, all these things are going to be a big concern to the people who actually own the physical value, and also who is going to be trusted, to basically regulate and store and keep everyone accountable in the physical world for all their digital assets that are twinning the physical assets in the real world. So like this is something that shows us that we're very early on in the space, and there are just so much amazing people that we need to come help solve these problems and to build this out. And like Adonis and your project is helping the people who are creating something new, architects who are creating new type of buildings, new type of architecture, and have them own that digital real estate or digital property, and intellectual property. But in the future, we will definitely need to figure out how it is that we will be able to actually bring in all these physical assets that already exist, like the Eiffel Tower, like all these things, and bring it to the metaverse.
Exactly. And to add actually to that point, from the architectural perspective, which, don't get me wrong, I didn't know about digital twins until earlier this year when I had a conversation with my brother, who's an architect. But there were some issues that we were discovering while talking. Is some of the buildings have areas that, for the correct or wrong reasons, they don't allow everybody to go over, correct? So maybe they have vaults, maybe they have storage units that they want to have hidden. You don't want that exposed to the public, correct? You don't want that information of a digital twin being exposed to the public. So an easy solution will be just like on websites that are locked and you're not allowed to enter until you have the correct security pass in order to enter, because it's your job, for an example. Then you're gonna have that within the metaverse as well. And also, I believe that digital twins are part of maybe a different metaverse platform, because I call Decentraland the metaverse platform and Somnium a metaverse platform, and then maybe what NVIDIA is creating, which is more photorealistic, another metaverse platform, although they call it Omniverse. So depending on the scope of work that you have while entering the metaverse, you will be able to enter whichever metaverse platform you want to for that scope of work. For example, are you entering for fun? Fair enough. You go to Decentraland, fun avatar over there, have fun. Are you entering for work in an environment where you need to regulate and you need to check stuff? You're gonna enter with a more photorealistic avatar of you. You enter that environment and you are in a digital twin, which is more photorealistic, like you're over there. Obviously, that, like Milton said, and that goes with the next question as well. I could say that could be 5 or 10 years away before we have a full-blown metaverse like we see it in the Hollywood movies. Apart from the dystopian future, which I'm not gonna go into that, but when it comes to the metaverse, like you have in Ready Player One, which is a full-blown metaverse, and there's digital twins, but also something which is more like Grand Theft Auto as well, and it has that interoperability. We're 5 or 10 years away, given my take, and even what Kathy Hagel says as well in some of her books as well. So yeah, what do you think about how far away are we from mass adoption and having that metaverse idea that we have from the movies and actually realizing? What do you think, guys?
Well, just going to I think there's two things for me. There's the cosmetic, there's the visuals, and obviously the haptic suit and all of the other like sci-fi and the tech which we don't have. But I do think that it's like the web. You can root back some of the key fundamentals that are in place, and you can sort of see the evolution of where those might take us. And I think visually and how we have a really detailed, high fidelity metaverse with huge numbers of users in the same space, running in real time across the network with no lag. Yeah, that's quite a way away. But for example, if you take, say, the gameplay credentials of, say, Sandbox, or the virtual reality cosmetics of Siminium Space, or the blockchain integration of Decentraland, you can see all of these elements in already there today. And just to talk a little bit about what I know most about, I think that one of the things that's slightly misrepresented in terms of people's understanding of Decentraland is how powerful as a programming platform it actually is. Because I was a developer before I came to this, and it's one of the reasons which Decentraland won me over and kept me, because as a developer, its SDK is a first-class programming experience. I've yet to come across any problem where we've not been able to solve it with its tools. So just to give you an idea of how powerful I think it actually is, we've now got like a multiplayer golf game. The physics are synchronized between users. We've got an authoritative server so that we can actually, stop people cheating in the actual game. And the physics is really realistic, like a PGA, golf simulation. So we actually think that you'll be able to literally just share a link in Facebook and say, actually challenge me to a game on the golf course, and then you can walk over to the clubhouse and even play more games after that. And I think those concepts are there. And it's like the web, from the first web page, and then the first animations were put on there, and some dynamic content. Right through to the fact that Decentraland itself is a web application now. So I think that the dimension of where we can see this going is absolutely massive. And I think that if you look at the collective of metaverses, then anyone with a bit of imagination can kind of like piece together, how you get to a Ready Player One. What would be?
Lorne, over to you. Would you like to add anything, or do you want to?
I was just going to add, kind of to James's point, just picking up on the numbers and mass adoption. I mean, I think the numbers were, and James, you might have a better insight into this or better memory for this, but I think the numbers were on Decentraland at the beginning of this year, you had 10 or 15,000 users. I think today we're close to 1 million registered users, if not over 1 million registered users. And if you continue along that same, trajectory, you're going to see potentially 20 million users, some point to end of next year, which it's not based on the size of the world, it's not mass adoption, but certainly those numbers are quite significant and do show that we're headed in a direction where that could be very significant. And Sandbox is still in alpha, and again, I think it's got some some very interesting partnerships and very interesting content going on in Sandbox. And I think if you look at that, it has a chance to move into mass adoption as well. So I think we're early days, and yes, there are technology issues or technological issues and issues around many of the different things that we're talking about, and whether it's a true VR experience or not. But I think it's definitely coming, and I don't think it's a train I'd want to get in front of, frankly.
Milton, I apologize, but it looks like we have 5 minutes left. So if you could give us your closing remarks, if we could have the closing remarks for everyone, it would be great.
So appreciate you. So as far as the metaverse being the adoption and everything, I feel like we definitely have some time to actually have a full-blown metaverse. We do have metaverses, if you want to say, like these digital universes, and I feel like these universes are going to be built out, they're going to be used, there's going to be a lot of users onboarded onto these siloed universes, and over time we will build these bridges, because everyone has this in mind, to build these bridges between these different universes. And then eventually in the next 10 years around, we would have like a full-blown metaverse potentially. But we still have a lot of problems that we really need to just really focus on, because a lot of people just would think about transaction speed, thinking about the graphics and everything in these metaverses. But one of the main things and concerns for me is security. Security is the number one thing that we're going to be keeping an eye out on, because you see these platforms, yes, they're usable, that you're able to build on top of, but security is a huge thing, because what we're building is something that is trustless, and if we don't have the security, we do not have that trust, so the trustlessness to use these platforms and everything. So like for example, like Solana, a lot of value is being put on top of these very short chains. And if you understand blockchain, the longer the chain, the more secure. So because of all this value being put on top of all these blockchains, and they have intermediate problems, they're going through a lot of attacks and everything like that. Security is the number one thing that is taking the longest as far as development in this space, in my opinion, in the metaverse. But the great thing is that we have a lot of great and capable and very intelligent people that are trying to solve this.
Absolutely. And I would like to use my time and say that at Renovi, together with GDA Capital, who are hosting this, and the Metaverse Group as well, we're going to have the next top Metaverse build competition. And we want to invite all architects, designers, developers to help build the Metaverse, an open and interoperable Metaverse. And we want to do that by designing the buildings that will go on Decentraland, that will go on Sandbox, that will go everywhere, right? And for that reason, we're giving amazing rewards to everyone, from software to tokens at amazing prices, to entrances within the Metaverse. I mean, GDA Capital, they're offering amazing rewards. The same with the Metaverse Group. I cannot emphasize that enough. Apologies that I'm using the time to plug, but I think it's really great for an untapped group of people within the Metaverse to enter the Metaverse and embrace it as their own and see what they can create. If they're designing amazing buildings that are odd, when you see them in real life, imagine what they can do digitally.
So I just like to say, thanks for a great discussion for everybody. I would like to just quickly plug Festival District, which is actually giving access. It's creating a new DAO, and it's giving access and a conduit to the land to help lots of people get involved and put on events. And I would just hand over to Lorne to say his farewell piece.
So thank you to everyone for participating, and GDA for putting this on. Enjoyed the conversation. I'm not going to plug anything, and just think this has been fun and exciting, and look forward to joining the next one and talking about where we're at then.
Absolutely. Thank you,
I just want
everyone.
to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, GDA. Thank you for all the participants, and I hope that we provided value to all our watchers and viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.